joined by Ryan McGuigan. He is a former assistant state's attorney here in Connecticut, also a defense attorney, regular commentator on Face the State. And Ryan, always good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It's been quite a morning as we watched state police arrive. It seemed that it was a surprise visit. Even Norm Pattis said he just heard rumors that he eventually believed were true enough that he showed up. Obviously, there has to be some tipping point that led to the murder charge. What can we ascertain by the fact that after all of these months, 7 months of nothing, that there's now a murder charge?
I think that what the charges are displaying is that there was a continued investigation into co-conspirators, and namely this attorney. And I think that was the delay from the first and second charges until this subsequent murder charge was sort of nailing down the culpability of third parties.
You know, there were some people who were arguing that it was Michelle Troconis and Fotis Dulos who pulled this off, and now we're hearing this third name mentioned. But we don't know what his role may or may not have been. When you're charged with conspiracy to commit murder, what does that mean exactly, what your role might have been?
It means that more than one party, that you have a meeting of the minds between more than one people, and then one of the people takes an overt act towards that felony. It has to be a felony. You don't conspire to commit misdemeanors. So once it's a felony and then you have more than one people and they have a meeting of the minds and then they go forward committing an overt act towards that felony, that's what we know as conspiracy. The penalties are the same as the underlying charge, and it also makes prosecutions much easier.
May I interrupt for just one moment? We just got a statement from the family of Jennifer Dulos. This is from Carrie Luft on behalf of the family and friends of Jennifer Farber Dulos. Above all, we thank the Connecticut State Police and the New Canaan Police Department, as well as the assisting local departments, for their tireless commitment and diligent, painstaking work that have led to these arrests. Although we are relieved that the wait for these charges is over, for us there is no sense of closure. Nothing can bring Jennifer back. We miss her every day. We will forever mourn her loss. We believe the arrest warrants will speak for themselves. We ask that you please respect our privacy during this time. Thank you.
And that's something that we've heard from the Farber Dulos family for some time, that they did not expect to see Jennifer Dulos again. So they certainly believed that these charges would bring some level of justice for them. Let's talk about Kent Mawhinney for a moment. I think for the average person, all they heard about was that he was, for a time, involved representing him in a civil case with the Farber Dulos family, and that he had this strange incident with his estranged wife where he violated a protective order when he sent Dulos to go talk to her. And that case was still pending, that he violated a protective order with his wife. What can you tell us about, if anything, his role and what this means?
I don't know Kent Mawhinney. I've never worked with him before. I could from what I've read and what you've told me, it seems that that there's some sort of a relationship that kind of goes beyond the normal attorney-client relationship, that this was a friendship at some point, and they may have been socializing wives and whatnot, and that's how I could foresee this possibly happening, because it's extremely odd.
You know, being your friend and talked to you many times, I sort of know what kind of goes on in some of these situations, and you always have told me that, you know, prosecutors like to talk to the other witnesses in the case, and they would like to get them to testify against the big guy in the case, which in this case is Fotis Dulos.
It would be Dulos.
Does it show that, does their arrest show that did not happen, that they're not cooperating?
No. They're going to arrest you unless you could get, you go from what's called a queen for a day, and then you can get complete immunity. Then in those cases you wouldn't be arrested. But in most cases, even when there is an unindicted co-conspirator, they're named as unindicted. So they at one point were under investigation. So in most cases where you have cooperating witnesses, perhaps they're sometimes more likely than not charged. Other times you charge people hoping that they will cooperate against others, but if the evidence shows that they conspired to commit this murder, then I don't think they would be scrapping to try to get some sort of a cooperation agreement, because the penalties are so draconian, as they should be.
Okay, so just because of these charges and the other people, it doesn't mean that they're not cooperating or that something didn't change on their end?
Not necessarily,
just because you share information does not absolve you of these crimes?
Correct.
You have been in the shoes of the prosecutor, Rich Colangelo. You have been a prosecutor before. Looking at the evidence that, as we know it, is it a strong case for him?
I would say it is. The state, whether it was the state of Connecticut or the federal government, they're supposed to win. They have all of the facts on their side. They have all of the of the utilities at their side, and so they're supposed to win.
What about that there, at least to our knowledge, unless something has changed today, that there's no body, that Jennifer Farber Dulos has gone missing? You always hear in popular conversation that, oh, you can't have a murder charge without a body.
The evidence that they presented to a judge of the Superior Court, which from what I believe, they have had that for quite a long time. They have had at least enough for this warrant for quite a long time. So the fact that they don't have a body, the judge has determined that there's probable cause that she's dead. Now they just have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
You now work as a defense attorney, so let's put your defense cap on right now, and you're defending him. Where are the holes in the case as you see them?
Well, just that, is that a judge has determined that there's probable cause that she is dead, but they have not determined that it's beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a major factual jump to get to, and then they'll have to prove that.
You know, so many people have said to Kara and me and out in the, the public, what about the trash? What about the fact that they were seen on camera throwing away bags that later had Jennifer's blood in them?
Well, they had a shirt that they believe she was wearing the day she disappeared that was bloody. We understand that there also was a man who said he found a bloody knife, but he sold it to someone, so at least to our knowledge at this point, they never recovered that weapon that could have been a murder weapon. But there's blood on clothing. You will have,
it's a circumstantial case, and you will have lots of pieces of evidence that will establish guilt. And that's what circumstantial cases are. I mean, you don't have somebody saying, I did it. You don't have somebody saying, I saw him do it. So therefore, all cases like this are all circumstantial, and they all come down to a mounting of the evidence. And once you have a mountain of evidence, it's really difficult as a defense attorney to be sort of swatting flies. If they just keep sending them at you, at some point you just get exhausted, and the jury gets exhausted of all your explanations for everything, and then very quickly the case starts to decline for you.
We know from the earlier affidavit from the summer that they were targeting and questioning Fotis Dulos' employee, who they thought he had perhaps driven the vehicle that Jennifer Farber Dulos' body. He's not named in this case. That, I imagine, would be someone that they would continue to want to talk to or get as much information as possible.
He would be a cooperating witness, and what happened was that they obviously believed his story because it checked out. He could corroborate it with other people. Whether he took a polygraph, I don't really know, but I wouldn't put it past the state's attorney's office to ask him if he would, and I'm sure that he did.
As a former prosecutor, do you have any speculation as to where the body might be? What may have been done with it?
No, I wouldn't have anything like that.
People have known that he's been in construction, and there's been concern about what would happen. And people bring up the famous wood chipper case, that it took years, and then that was a turning point in that case. Are things different, that even if this murder case proceeds and Jennifer Farber Dulos' body is still missing, that we have different technologies now? The world has changed. You can prove a circumstantial case beyond a reasonable doubt in an easier way now?
Well, 25 years ago, had it not been for CCTVs the way that they are, I don't think that they ever would have made an arrest in this case, because what the state police and the state's attorney's office in Stanford did with Richard Colangelo, what they put together in piecing together every step of how he could have had the opportunity to get back down to Fairfield County to commit the murder. That was incredible work, and had it not been for those CCTV cameras,
the cameras all along the highway,
this never would have happened.
Want to talk about what's next? Will the three be tried together, and what's the timeline looking ahead at the coming year when this trial could take place?
Oh God, I would say it's obviously a very high-profile case, so I'd say it would have to go to trial or to some adjudication within the next 18 months.
So we're going to thank you, and stay with us because we want to continue to check in with you.